Welcome to this explainer. All right, listen up, all you skeptical history buffs out there who think you've got the whole picture on global trade. You know who you are. You probably look at your favorite brightly colored carbonated drink and just see a completely mundane, chemically engineered flavor profile, right? Well, you're wrong. Today, we're peeling back the sanitized label of modern commerce to look at the gritty, unbelievable origins of the Kola Nut.
I mean, it's a stark contrast, isn't it? On one hand, you have the multi-billion-dollar soda industry. It's sterile, corporate, mass-produced. But on the other hand, we're looking at a medicinal African survival tool. Let's be clear, this plant wasn't originally cultivated to be some fun, fizzy treat for a hot summer day. No, it is a high-stakes biological survival powerhouse that literally changed the course of history in some of the most harrowing conditions imaginable. So let's trace exactly how it jumped from a vital medicine to an industrial commodity.
Now, to actually understand this global journey, we have to confront the incredibly dark history of the transatlantic slave trade. Months. Just think about that. That was the brutal reality of the Middle Passage. We are talking about a harrowing, agonizing, months-long crossing of the Atlantic Ocean, trapping hundreds of human beings in the suffocating belly of a wooden ship for that length of time. Well, it made survival a matter of extreme biological endurance.
So how do they survive? Well, the Kola Nut literally solved a life-or-death logistical problem on these voyages. All thanks to this crazy biological superpower, it actually refreshes stagnant dead water. Think about that. Slave ship captains considered these nuts such a vital logistical tool that they bulk purchased them at West African ports and then dropped them directly into the shipboard water casks. And obviously they didn't do this for flavor, they did it to purify putrid drinking water, just to keep their human cargo alive.
But, bad water wasn't the only threat on a months-long voyage. The Kola Nut possesses a secondary biological superpower. It suppresses hunger for days. In a severe survival situation, this tiny little seed acts as a profound energy bank. When you're trapped on a ship with meager, rotting food supplies, a nut that can medically trick the human body into not feeling hunger, that becomes an absolutely critical biological lifeline.
I want you to put yourself in this scenario for a second. If you were crossing an ocean and the water inside your wooden casks turned green, slimy, and just completely stagnant, would you trust a little seed to clean it? Or would you just risk the agonizing thirst? It's a crazy thought, right? But for the enslaved, there was no choice. However, they actually brought a deep pre-existing knowledge of this plant with them into that grim survival scenario.
And this brilliantly illustrates a critical shift we really need to make in how we view history, something a lot of you history buffs tend to overlook. Enslaved Africans were not just laborers, they were sophisticated botanists, okay? They didn't just passively consume whatever their captors handed them, they understood the complex medicinal properties of the kola nut far, far better than the European merchants did. They deliberately used this plant knowledge to survive, endure, and ultimately adapt to the harsh environments of the New World.
Which brings us to a word that, despite all your extensive historical knowledge, you've probably never encountered: bisi. This is the African vernacular name for the kola nut. While European commerce simply saw a commodity to be exploited, enslaved Africans deliberately retained the name bisi in the English Caribbean. They used this word, and the nut itself, as a powerful cultural shield. A tool for traditional healing that maintained a direct, unbroken linguistic link right back to their homelands. It represents a truly stunning, hidden legacy of African cultural preservation.
So, how exactly did bisi become your favorite sparkling beverage? Well, it's a stealthy, incredible journey. Originating deeply in West African traditional healing, it arrived in the Americas, where enslaved people quietly cultivated the nut in secret dooryard plantation gardens, basically to guarantee access to their own medicine away from the eyes of plantation owners. Eventually, through the brilliant, covert culinary preparations of enslaved cooks, it stealthily made its way onto the dining tables of the wealthy. And from there, it was ultimately co-opted as the very foundation of the massive global soda industry we know today.
The contrast here is just incredibly heavy. Today, this plant is entirely co-opted by European commerce, processed in giant metal vats and pumped full of sugar. But its true nature? It's a living botanical legacy representing pure survival against all odds. Way before it was an industrial ingredient, the kola nut was a foundational African medicinal tool. It's native to regions like Senegal and Liberia, and it was utilized for centuries in sophisticated healing long before global commerce stepped in and stripped its original identity.
So here is the stark reality of the whole thing. A nut that cleans dead water, plus a nut that stops human hunger, equals modern soda. Let that sink in. We took a seed that physically kept human beings alive during one of humanity's absolute darkest chapters, and we turned it into the most recognizable mass-marketed flavor on the planet. We basically hid a massive, gritty historical legacy right inside a disposable soda can. I mean, are you ever going to be able to look at a simple can of soda the same way again? Now that's absolutely wild.